So there's two things that I want to talk about with you and why, and this is not going to be the usual interview you get, because artist is one, everybody wants to know, young musicians, how do you do it? How do you find your way in today's music industry?
Right.
How do you make it work? That's the first question. I mean, that's a big question.
Right.
but I mean, you were born into it, not born into it, but when you came of age, 2009, Motionless in White, right? As you said the year was, Motionless in White was born officially. Well, the music industry was dead. And you still had the same dream I had.
Take a deep breath here.
Take a deep breath. I want to hear what you have to say.
This is, in fact, one of the most common questions I get. Like, I've done these gatherings of people throughout the last 2 times that we did Warped Tour. And it's just kind of like it's not really a Q&A, but it's just a meeting where I get to meet a bunch of...
Oh, I did one of those one time. Kevin invited me.
Yes.
It's very cool.
It's an awesome opportunity to get to just kind of be a little bit more intimate and more insightful to your fans, and just get to talk about things that you would never really get to talk about through the music or through the normal interviews. So that was one of the biggest questions I got, and I found myself stumbling through the answer frequently, because I actually feel like we're in a much different era now. Even just with the band being a band for 10 to 12 years, we are in such a different era of music now than we were then. Then we had MySpace. We had, the social networking was just starting to become a thing. You still had to go out there and like really actually physically grind it out. Whereas a lot of bands now are just, I've noticed a trend now where a lot of bands are covering pop songs and putting it on YouTube and getting the plays that way. And
that's becoming a big thing right now.
Yeah. And whatever way that you need to go about getting your band out there noticed, then that's your path. But that seems to be a big one now versus actually going out there and suffering in the van. Having $5 to eat a week and just. I mean, I'm sure.
I did it. Oh. I did. But one thing is I do say is, it's difficult today. It was always difficult.
Yeah.
It was a different difficult.
Yep.
It was a different path. And fortunately, I would say my dream was to be rich, famous, rock and roll star in that order. I want to be rich and I want to be famous. And I said, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, I like rock and roll, so I'm going to be a rock star. So, and that's, and it's weird because I get to see you guys, and I got to meet, and I met you many years ago now. What was at Starland Ballroom,
yep.
And you were on a 3-band bill, and you guys were opening.
Yes.
And you weren't even, I don't think you were fully realized even in your, you didn't even have that the band was completely looking the way you've come to look, and
right.
Hadn't really sorted it all out. You were finding it.
Right.
I think Abigail was out around that time.
Yep.
Was that their first album?
That was the first full-length release, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I remember the first time we saw each other, I was standing on the side of the stage monitoring,
Yep.
and Chris comes over, and I'm watching Chris and going, oh, this guy's definitely cut from the same cloth as
Yes.
me. I could see the way he performed. I saw the way he looked, and then he comes over and he's walking the stage, and he walks over. And he sees me, and he literally freezes for a minute.
Yep.
And I smiled, and then he went back to performing, and then we met afterwards for the first time, and we've known each other ever since. But at that time, you're saying, so that was Get in the Van, that was MySpace, that was social media was really just becoming the force
Yep.
that it is today.
Yeah, that was. We booked so many of our own tours DIY through just having to cold messaging people on MySpace for show trades or whatever it was, and just literally finding any avenue that you can to get in there and just go. And not that I don't think that bands have that drive these days. I mean, they do. It's just it's a much different time now to do that kind of stuff where I don't. And then on top of that, how can bands afford to do that now? I mean, not that things were that much less expensive then or whatever, but I don't even know how bands can get in the van and go anymore and even live.
I just want to comment on just something that I got to see when my daughter, particularly my daughter, she's so fucking hardcore. She's so brutal. She's the best. But my other sons were in metal as well. But with her, she wanted to go to these clubs at 13, 14, these shows, and so I had to go with her to monitor. But I saw these bands, and the passion has not changed. The desire and the love that the bands, the artists, you have for music it's greater, I think, because the pot of gold isn't there like it once was. You're in there knowing that you may not never get rich doing this, but you've got no choice. You have to be there. Yeah. And I see that, and I love that energy. I'm like a vampire. That's what I love to see. That I got nothing to fucking lose. What are you going to take from me? I got $5 a week to eat. I'm sleeping in a van with 10 other people, and and I love it. And I'm up there. So God bless you guys for that, and God bless all the bands, the young bands out there, because you just fire me up seeing that energy. But you are you're the driving force behind your band. So you're coming into this world, and it's evolving and it's changing. So how are you deciding what are the right moves to make?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of wrong moves made, but that's just part of the learning experience. And I think that one of the right moves is learning from the wrong moves. You
learn more from your mistakes than you learn from your successes, for sure.
Absolutely. One of the greatest life lessons of all time is make mistakes,
Yeah.